On a quiet, moonlit night in a remote African village, a mysterious figure emerged under the ancient baobab tree. Cloaked in indigo, his staff adorned with tinkling bells, he spoke stories that transformed the hearts and minds of everyone who listened. But who was this midnight storyteller, and what secrets did his tales hold? Before we dive into this mesmerizing tale, make sure to subscribe to Tale Story House and hit the bell icon to join us on more unforgettable journeys into the heart of storytelling. In a remote African village surrounded by hills and dense forests, the people lived simple yet content lives. The village thrived on farming, hunting, and weaving, with each family contributing to the community's prosperity. They shared meals, celebrated festivals, and gathered under the great baobab tree in the village square to tell stories and pass down wisdom. One peculiar aspect of this village was its reliance on tales and proverbs to teach life lessons. Elders often recounted stories to guide the younger generation, instilling in them values of honesty, unity, and respect for nature. But as time passed, younger villagers grew restless, yearning for modernity. They began to dismiss the stories, deeming them old-fashioned and irrelevant. The wisdom of the elders was fading into obscurity. Then one night, something strange happened. As the moon rose high, casting silver light over the sleeping village, an eerie yet soothing melody filled the air. The sound seemed to come from the edge of the forest, where no one dared to wander at night. The villagers, intrigued and frightened, peeked out from their homes. They saw a figure cloaked in dark robes, standing at the base of the baobab tree. The figure carried a staff adorned with small, tinkling bells. Though the face was obscured, the villagers could feel an air of authority and wisdom radiating from the stranger. The figure began to speak, and the words seemed to flow like a river, captivating everyone who listened. It was a story, a tale unlike any they had heard before. The villagers gathered cautiously around the baobab, drawn in by the mysterious storyteller. They listened in silence, enthralled by the vivid imagery and deep meaning behind every word. When the story ended, the stranger vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving the villagers both enchanted and puzzled. The next night, the same thing happened. The villagers heard the melody, saw the cloaked figure, and listened to yet another tale. This became a nightly event. The storyteller would arrive at midnight, share a story, and disappear before dawn. Each tale seemed to address the village's struggles and shortcomings, providing insights and solutions hidden within the narrative. The first story spoke of greed. It told of a farmer who hoarded his harvest, refusing to share with his neighbors during a famine. In the end, his selfishness led to his downfall, as his crops rotted and he was left with nothing. The villagers, reflecting on their own lives, realized that they had been growing distant and selfish, valuing material wealth over community bonds. The story prompted them to come together, sharing food and resources to ensure no one went hungry. The second tale warned against pride. It featured a hunter who boasted of his skills, claiming he was invincible. But his arrogance blinded him to the dangers of the forest, and he fell into a trap he had set for others. The villagers, who had been quarreling over who was the most skilled farmer, hunter, or weaver, saw the futility of their pride. They began to appreciate each other's contributions, understanding that unity was their greatest strength. Night after night, the midnight storyteller's tales revealed truths about life. One story highlighted the consequences of ignoring tradition. It described a young man who abandoned his people's customs, seeking fortune in a distant land. Though he gained wealth, he lost his identity and was filled with regret. The villagers were reminded of the importance of preserving their heritage, ensuring that their children understood the value of their customs and stories. Another tale delved into the relationship between humans and nature. It told of a village that overhunted the animals and chopped down trees recklessly. The land turned barren, and the people suffered greatly. This story resonated deeply, as the villagers had noticed the diminishing game and drying rivers. They pledged to hunt responsibly, plant trees, and respect the balance of nature. As the weeks passed, the midnight storyteller became an integral part of the village's life. People eagerly awaited the sound of the bells and the soothing voice that transported them to worlds of wisdom. However, they still didn't know who the storyteller was or where they came from. Some believed it was a wandering sage, while others thought it was a spirit sent by their ancestors to guide them. One night, the storyteller's tale took a darker turn. The story was about a village much like their own, where the people became complacent. They ignored warnings, indulged in laziness, and allowed greed, envy, and hatred to fester. Over time, the village crumbled, its people scattered, and its stories forgotten. The villagers listening under the baobab felt a chill, recognizing their past behaviors in the story. The tale served as a stark warning that their actions today would shape their future. The storyteller's final story was the most powerful. It spoke of a sacred tree in a distant land that granted wisdom to anyone who sought it. Many tried to reach the tree, but only those who acted with kindness, humility, and courage could succeed. The villagers understood that the tree symbolized the wisdom in their own hearts, accessible only if they lived with integrity and compassion. After this story, the midnight storyteller did not return. The villagers waited for several nights, but the mysterious figure was gone. Though saddened, they realized that the lessons they had learned were the storyteller's true gift. They began to live by the values embedded in the tales, fostering unity, generosity, and respect for their traditions and environment. The village prospered. Families worked together to ensure everyone's needs were met. The elders resumed telling stories, which the younger generation now cherished. The community thrived, not just materially but spiritually, as they embraced the wisdom passed down through generations. Years later, the villagers still spoke of the midnight storyteller. They never discovered the figure's identity, but they no longer needed to. The lessons had become a part of their lives, guiding them through challenges and reminding them of the importance of unity, humility, and respect. The story of the midnight storyteller teaches us that wisdom often comes in unexpected ways. It reminds us to value the lessons of the past, respect traditions, and prioritize community over selfish desires. Just as the villagers learned, our actions today shape our future. By living with kindness, humility, and respect for others and the environment, we can build a prosperous and harmonious life. The midnight storyteller's tales encourage us to listen, reflect, and grow. Wisdom is all around us, but it's up to us to recognize it and let it guide our actions. In the end, the greatest stories are not just the ones we hear, but the ones we lived. And if you liked the video, make sure to subscribe to Tales Story House and hit the bell icon to join us on more unforgettable journeys into the heart of storytelling.